Sorry, I had to go tell the kids upstairs to not be too loud for a moment.
That's cute.
Right? Exactly. The reality of 2020. All right, I think we're all rolling and all set on our end here.
Good.
All right. We're here with Dr. Deborah Birx from the White House Coronavirus Task Force. Thank you so much for being with us. We've seen these rising case numbers here in Indiana. The CDC now recommending people not to travel for Thanksgiving, to keep it simple. How do we turn these rising case numbers around?
Well, the good news is we know exactly what to do because we've handled this in the South. The South looked like Indiana in July, and they put in mask mandates. They told people to physically distance. They told them to practice good personal hygiene, but most importantly, they told them to limit gatherings to their immediate household only, because every single gathering can become a spreading event because the level of asymptomatic spread, where the person coming into your house, whether they're your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your niece, could be infected and spreading the virus unknowingly. And that's what makes gatherings indoors without masks on really spreading events.
There's been promising news on a couple of potential vaccines. Are we equipped to get those out to people in the coming months? And are we also looking still at issues when it comes to testing supplies and delays right now?
So, two great questions. Vaccine delivery. When you want logistics done right, you call in the military because they're used to shipping logistics all over the world, and a vast different kind of logistics that need all kinds of special treatment. Obviously, when you're shipping munitions, those need special treatment. And so they are very well prepared, and they presented at task force briefing yesterday their plan for distribution, which is extraordinarily solid plan. The most important piece, though, coming from the states, is who's going to be immunized first. And that's really a dialogue between the state health leadership and the governor and the CDC. And that's ongoing and happening. And that decision will become crucial as you look at your cases. Who's getting hospitalized? Who's dying from this disease? And really understanding who needs to be protected first and really making those decisions state by state. But we know what to do. Now, your testing question. That's a really insightful question, because what we've learned from universities is universities that made testing a requirement and tested all the student body, they were able to find those asymptomatic cases that we just talked about. And they were able to isolate those asymptomatic cases, and they had much less spread of the virus in their community of students. The colleges that tested the way we are, testing symptomatics and their contacts, doing contact tracing, isolation, and quarantine, they infected many more students, up to 8 to 10%. So less than 1%, 8 to 10%. We really need, and we've been putting in the task force report to every single state to really use testing, not only to increase how many you test, but using tests smartly to really find this asymptomatic spread at the same time you're finding the symptomatic spread.
You mentioned the task force briefing this week. This was, I believe, the first media briefing for the task force since July. Why hasn't the task force been more visible in recent weeks and months as cases began to tick back up?
I think two reasons. One, I was out on the road, primarily dealing with states that were in the situation where we could see the virus coming, and we wanted to make sure that they understood our concerns, and they also understood what could be done now, and really learn from the states. And really talk to people, talk to the tribal nations and the chairmen, talk to your county commissioners, talk to your mayors and governors, to really ensure that we're communicating effectively about what needs to be done and what the messaging should look like and what the restrictions should look like. And that was a really key dialogue. And so after the election, we all came back together and used that information. And I think it was the decision of the senior leadership in the White House, the vice president and the president, that now is the moment to really ensure that the American people knew how serious and how different this fall surge was, and a really call to action of every single American, because there is that bright light at the end of the tunnel, but we need to get there together with as many Americans saved from this virus as possible.
Are you among those who believes that the Biden transition team should be brought into the conversation on the pandemic to ensure a smooth transition on the fight against COVID? And if asked, would you hope to continue serving in a similar role when the new administration takes office?
Well, I think your first point to really understand that I know that press for months has been talking about the governor's reports being secret. They were never secret. They went to governors and health officials in every single state, analyzing the data, ensuring that we were both seeing the same thing at the hospital level, at the county level, to really understand the information and then provide really a summary, which we do, and recommendations. I think it's very important that the transition teams get to see the data analysis so that there's a shared understanding of what's happening across the country, county by county, hospital by hospital, so that there's an understanding of why we've taken the strategy that we have in relationship to the states and how each state is doing and how important it is to have that really granular data. And I think that time will come and that transparency will be complete because we are very transparent with the governors and the state officials of everything that we know. We're not hiding the ball in any way. And I think you saw in the task force, the open briefing. Now, I've been a civil servant for 40 years in every administration since Ronald Reagan, and that's really up to the incoming administration deciding whether I can be helpful to them or not. Certainly my long history of service, I would not leave in the middle of a crisis if it was felt that I was needed.
Finally, I want to ask about Indiana specifically. Just about all the states bordering Indiana have taken aggressive new actions in recent days with new restrictions. Our state has not gone to that same extent yet. Does more need to be done in that regard at the state by state level and here in Indiana specifically?
Well, you can see your numbers. And you can see that what we are talking about in Indiana and Indianapolis in particular experienced a summer surge. That was very clear, but I want to make it just absolutely clear to the people of Indiana. What's happening this fall is the spread is more rapid, the rate of rise of cases is higher, the number of counties that are engaged in this rapid spread is equal, if not greater than the summer, and the length that we've been in this degree of spread is longer than the summer. And so this is the moment to really do additional mitigation. There are things that the state can do to mitigate this virus, but there's also critical things that each of us can do. And all of us should be wearing a mask. We know it protects us. We know it protects others. We all should be physical distancing, but absolutely critical is we cannot have indoor gatherings with individuals that you don't know their viral status. And by looking at them, you cannot tell if they're infected or not. And to remind everyone in Indiana, we have done great improving therapeutics. And at one time, 30% of individuals over 70 that got infected succumbed to this illness. Now it's down to 10%, but no one wants to be that 10%. And so if you have people in your family with comorbidities or you have people over 70, this is the moment to protect them and to ensure that we all make it to next year together.
Dr. Deborah Birx with the White House Coronavirus Task Force, we thank you for your time. Have a safe and happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Safe. We'll be happy next year.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much. Thanks, Doctor.
Thanks.